Hello. Okay, I just wanted to do a quick follow-up on what we did in class. So we're gonna, in the perusal next week, I'll go over cognitive function a little bit more, but basically the idea was to use the Stroop color test to find out if an acute bout of exercise had any impact on cognitive function. Okay, so that was our goal by doing that movement at the end of class. So I'm just going to show you the results from that. So I've some of us didn't follow directions correctly, which is fine. But we ended up with 7 people in this vigorous category, and then 27 people in the light to moderate category. Okay, so this was the pre-exercise Stroop time difference, and this is the post-exercise Stroop time difference for light to moderate, and then we got it for vigorous on this side. Okay, so all I'm going to do is, and you can do this in Excel on your own, but all I'm going to do is I'm going to do a t-test. So all that's going to do is it's going to tell me, is there a difference between my pre-test time differences and my post-test time differences? Now it's going to ask me about tails for distributions. Just for the record, a distribution, actually, I've got a board. Let's put it on the board. So we have a distribution of, sorry. So we've got a distribution, I'll face you so you can hear me. Oh, you can't even see that very well, unfortunately. We've got a distribution of scores, right? All this tail piece of this is asking is, okay, we're asking if there's a difference between two groups. Do you expect one group for sure to be higher than the other? Do you expect one group to be for sure lower than the other? Or are you not sure where the difference is? Now, for our question, we're pretty sure that, hey, if one of the groups has better cognitive function, it should be the group that did physical activity based on the research. Now, to be conservative, most researchers would say you should run a two-tailed test at all times just because we're not sure. Maybe our assumption is wrong. Maybe previous research is wrong. So if you do a two-tailed test, you're less likely to get a significant result. Okay. So I'm going to run it both ways for you. So first, let's run a two-tailed test. And then this is paired data because it's the same person taking the test each time. Okay. So we're going to do that. And this gives me a p-value. So the p-value is 0.12, which tells me, right, there's not a statistically significant difference between these two categories. Okay. So we're going to run that one more time and do the t-test between this array of data and this array of data. And now let's do a one-tailed distribution because I'm pretty sure that the difference is just going to be, if anything's different, then the post-exercise should be a smaller difference, right? And then it's paired again. Okay. And you see that that p-value now goes down to 0.06. So still not statistically significant, but much, much closer to statistically significant. So you can see how that one-sided assumption where we assume we know where the difference is causes some changes. So anyway, no difference between pre and post for the Stroop test on light physical activity. So now let's double check it for vigorous. And I'm just going to do just the one-tailed and paired. Okay, and again, 0.07, so not quite statistically significant, but we're close. So some researchers might say there's a trend here. But now I want to look at just the averages here. So I just want a visual representation of what this data might look like. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to just run a typical bar chart to see. So what's interesting here is that we have the pre-exercise time difference, and then we've got the post-exercise time difference, and this is for light. So what we see is that the post-exercise average difference went up in this light to moderate physical activity group. Okay. Now remember, we're comparing the difference in differences. Okay. So what this would suggest to me, I would expect maybe a greater difference with physical activity, right? Because I think, okay, that first trial, I was probably um if I'm just sitting, right, that's essentially what our pre-trial was. I have that as my sort of control, right? And then I went and did exercise, And now I would think there's going to be a bigger difference because I think I'm going to be a lot faster on as a result of the improved cognitive function from the acute bout of physical activity. And indeed, that is actually what we sort of see here, or what I would think we'd expect here. What's interesting, though, is that we see the exact opposite trend with vigorous physical activity. So with vigorous physical activity, we saw that in the pretest, there was actually a greater time difference than in the post-test. So there's not much difference for the group doing vigorous physical activity. So in any case, I want you to think about that and tell me, okay, what went wrong in this study, sort of. And that's what your post-class engagement assignment is. So the instructions for that are below, and I will see you in perusal class on Monday.